Live from a bunker in the heart of the Ozarks, a podcast that hasn't been this wrong since, well, the last time we podcasted. It's Sif Pop. Welcome to Sif Pop Weekly, streaming live most Fridays, are available to download later in your podcast feed, unless, of course, you're a patron.
Patrons get perks.
Patrons get those perks.
Woo!
I'm your host, Aaron Dicer, and he's still waiting for the final Equalizer 3 numbers to come in. It's Andrew Ormsby, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, it's all I need.
So you're telling me there's a chance.
Each week, we'll chat about movies, TV, and whatever else from the pop culture universe is on our minds. And please welcome our first guest this week. She's a Barbie girl living in the shrimp on a Barbie world. It's Alice.
Prawn.
We call them prawns. Yes, thank
Yeah.
you, Andrew. G'day, all.
They call them prawns in Alaska as well. I learned that, too.
Aaron,
And please
you just
welcome...
think Alaska's Australia, don't you?
Is it not? I'm confused.
That's actually where Aaron was all last week.
I was telling people good day, and they gave me these looks. I don't understand. Good eternal day. And please welcome our our second guest this week. He thought Fast X was the name for when he fires off a quick tweet. It's John Paula, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello. Good to be with you all from Germany this week.
Germany?
Traveling from work
Dog.
in a hotel here very late at night. So if I start falling asleep on the pod, I promise it's not because I'm not interested. I'm just very tired.
This is how much these two love you.
Yeah.
John is up in the middle of the night in Germany, and Alice got up way too early in Australia. Like this is how it works.
This is an international global event. We're coming, I think, plus 7 hours, minus 8 hours. It's a whole thing. It's very exciting.
Yep. No, I know you guys did it on purpose because me and John are going to get loopy by the end of this. it's going to make some good audio.
Guys,
I can get loopy.
Yeah, I
if
was
you
gonna
need me to
say,
get
I
loopy.
don't know that loopiness has ever been our issue.
Yeah.
There wasn't a problem. If I seem to recall the original episode, this is the sequel, of course, the results show of the Summer Sum Game. I seem to recall our first installment of this was a bit off the rails. How do you say? By the end of it, it was.
Yeah,
One of my favorite episodes we've ever recorded.
No, it was quite fun. I'm excited to be
It
back.
was fun.
Glad everyone was
Yeah,
able
and
to
I think we're
accommodate my
missing a
time
third
change.
guest. Where's ChatGPT? I don't see anyone. Where is she? He? Them?
So, turns out I messed up whenever I made my
you
initial
think
list.
so?
Oh, yeah, you think so?
Title
Oh,
of the episode. Turns out I messed up.
What was your first clue?
That I accidentally used ChatGPT version 3.5.
Oh no, Andrew! Absolutely.
So if I'd used
not.
the newer, modern version of ChatGPT, I mean,
I thought Andrew was going to
I'd be
say,
sitting pretty.
so I asked the new version today of ChatGPT what it would have said if I had asked it this question 3 months ago. And amazingly, it got everything right. It's just astonishing.
crazy.
so, yeah, next year.
Next year indeed. We are excited to go over the results of the Summer Sum game. And yes, John and Alice joined us for that, making those guesses. So we will have a competition between the four of us. We will also announce who won the overall competition.
Competition between the four of us. That's sweet. It's really sweet of you, Aaron. It's very kind. Thank you.
You did better than you should have. Let's just say that there were some things that fell in your favor for sure.
Last.
That's all right. Now you can also be first in a way, and then that's okay.
Yeah. I would say in what became a very surprising box office summer, they are often surprising. I don't think I've seen one this surprising in a while, with, basically 3 different movies that just kind of shocked everything on the good side, and then 2 movies that shocked everybody on the bad side. It was kind of one of those crazy summers. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that stuff. We will go through each of our results and talk about how it turned out for each of us. And we will go through the overall results as well. Let's start off with just some general conversation. And I will give us some kind of guideposts to form this conversation around just the actual summer itself. Let's start here. This isn't something I put in the notes, but if you were looking at this summer on what movie should have made the most money, like what was like the movie that you liked the most this summer or thought more people should have seen, what would that have been for you guys? As you kind of think about this summer, like what was the big one for each of you over the last 3 months?
I'll go first with that. I'm actually very happy with this summer's #1 pick. I think that was sort of an underserved market, as unfortunate as that half of the population is. Talking about Barbie and women, obviously. That said, I think my favorite movie might have been Dead Reckoning, and I'm really surprised that did not do much better. It got a very bad window of release right before Barbenheimer. Kind of got steamrolled by those 2 pictures. But all 3 of them ended up in the top 10, and all 3 of them I think would be my top 3 of the summer. So I'm pretty happy with kind of the results as they are. I'm so glad that a female directed, female focused movie just crushed everything else. I kind of love that.
Alice, Andrew, either of you have any thoughts?
I have no notes as to how everything went. None. Top 3, I would keep as is. No notes.
There you go.
I was going to say it's been surprising, but I'm so thrilled with how surprising it's been in some ways. So, literally, if I could do it again, I would just keep everything as is. We're good.
Andrew?
Me too. Yeah, keep everything the same way as it was. That wouldn't change a thing. But I would say the one that surprised me the most, just by how good it did, and I wanted it to do well, and it did, and that would be Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
The fact that was just so... I thought that movie was beyond remarkable. It's every single time I see it now, it grows, and it was already in my top 5 of the year, but it keeps getting higher and higher, and all the problems I had with it just diminish as the more times that I watch it. I'm like, it doesn't bother me anymore. Let's just keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely my pick.
I would have liked to have seen Blue Beetle do a little bit better. It came out late in the summer, but it's a good movie, and I think not enough people saw it. I get it. Clearly DC's decisions have impacted people's desire to see their movies. I don't think anybody realized how much of an impact that was going to have. But I did enjoy Blue Beetle quite a bit, so I wish that had performed a little better. It didn't have a lot of time. I don't think it was ever going to make kind of our list as far as
it opened low, and it doesn't seem like it's going to sort of catch any legs either.
Hey, we haven't gotten it yet. Like it could set fire to Australia.
Let's be real. The Aussies and the Kiwis aren't going to love this thing either. It's going to do whatever.
Yeah.
You're not going to say that. I'm sorry.
We have Beatles here. We could relate.
Yeah, but your beetles are more super powered than the actual Blue Beetle. Like you've got like the super powered insects over there. So yeah. All right. Well, let's get into some specifics here. Let's start with biggest underperformer. What is the movie you look at and you go, how did that only make X number of dollars? Alice, why don't you kick us off? What's kind of your pick?
I mean, it's not a surprise, but I'd say The Flash was like, it was on, I think, all of our lists. Because
I think that is,
well,
I think it is like,
it's a surprise. I guess having now seen it, it's not a surprise, if that makes sense.
I actually really liked it, but I agree. Yeah. Not a film I think deserving of like a top 10 placement necessarily.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we all, I was very bullish on it. I know, Andrew, you were as well. It had Michael Keaton coming back. Like all the tea leaves were indicating this is going to be the big DC crossover timeline resetting movie that everyone was going to check out.
This is the greatest film.
People were flipping out. Tom Cruise was raving about it. And then just this thing hit it's like a sack of potatoes. It just went nowhere.
It barely broke 100 million. It's at 108 million.
That's so embarrassing. I predicted.
I went to go see it like only a few weeks in, and I think my theater had like 4 people in it.
I went opening night, and there was only like 4 people there. Like it never started well. It didn't have any legs. Ironically, that was such a surprise disappointment for me. And again, it's not like it was a brilliant film that deserved much better, but I was very surprised, and I think Michael Keaton probably deserved better.
Does anybody have a different choice other than The Flash that they would want to talk about? Andrew?
Yeah, well, I had The Flash was my number 1, but actually Dial of Destiny was surprising because it's an Indiana Jones movie. You expect it to perform, and it didn't do The Flash horrible, but
it underperformed. Surprised. All four of us predicted it would go higher than it did.
Where did it end up?
It ended up
7.
It ended up at 7th. Aaron had it at 4th. You had it, Andrew, at 5. I had it at 3, and Alice, you had it at 6. And it underperformed all of our predictions. And then Fast X was the other big one.
I was going to say the other one would be Fast X. Yeah,
we all had Fast X in our top 10. Andrew had it at 1. I had it at, and then the rest of us all had it at 8. And it did really well internationally. I think that's important to point out that globally, especially in the Asian markets, it made close to 800 million worldwide. But yeah, domestically, not a lot of people really care about the Toretto gang anymore, unfortunately. And when the movies are costing $300 million, you can't make 90 million or 100. You need to crack $500 million, like stateside, just to break even.
How close are we to not getting Fast 11? Like,
I don't like that movie's going to lose so much for Universal,
and we've got the strikes going on. I'm wondering, once the strikes wrap up, who at Universal is going to go, let's get on Fast 11? Like, because I made a joke.
I think it'll be scaled down.
If they bring Paul Walker back, that movie's going to make money.
Well, they will, and it will, but I think they'll still scale the budget because it was COVID and a lot of other things. But $300 million is just untenable.
Ridiculous.
You can't keep making movies. That's the same reason why Dial of Destiny, even though it was on the top 10, made a lot of money, and I think generally people enjoyed it. It's going to lose like $300 million for Disney because they spent $350 to make
the budgets are way too high. Like you should have been able to make both of those movies on less, and it's absolutely ridiculous. And I think that's one of the
I think that's one of the subheadings of the summer is these drastically inflated budgets that have really, I think, come home to roost for the studios. They're realizing, we can't just throw money at a problem and give Flash $280 million to get produced, because it's not. In order to break even, when you factor in prints and advertising and marketing spend, it needs to get like $300 to $400 million.
Yeah, they spent,
and only 2 movies did that this year. Like it's not. It's just not like a tenable strategy when 2 or 3 movies a year get to where you need.
We will get Fast 11, and I'll tell you why. Fast X is the 5th. It's number 5 when you look at worldwide. It made 79.3% of its money outside of the United States.
That's what I was saying. It does huge numbers everywhere else.
Yeah. So it's made $704 million worldwide.
Wonderful. Might actually turn a profit.
So They'll find a way to they'll find a way to say it didn't, but yes, it might. So that is the answer. And as I look at those percentages, the only one that's even close to that came out this summer that I can see is Meg 2: The Trench, which has made 78.9% of its money outside of the US.
Those movies are
that's
weirdly,
not surprising.
they're weirdly
it's not
attractive
an American
to everyone
film,
but America.
so
No,
yeah,
really
yeah. All right. So there you go. There's the underperformers, and I agree. It really is. If you had told me neither Fast X or The Flash would be in the top 10 in May, I would have said, what did you get your picks from ChatGPT? Like that's just weird. So
I had him.
Yeah, I was going to say no. ChatGPT
To my own demise, I had him.
Yeah, ChatGPT had Fast X at number 1. So
number 1.
Yeah, that was amazing. All right, let us move on to the next category, which is biggest overperformer. What's the movie that you would slot as this one? I cannot believe how much money this movie made. Andrew, why don't you start us off on this?
There are 2 correct answers for this.
Yes.
One of them is Barbie, which
obviously
nobody. I think the highest anybody had on our list was 2 or 3. And I'm not talking between the 4 of us. I'm talking everybody that did
everybody in the game.
Nobody had it ranked 1. Nobody had
it ranked 1. Yeah.
And of the 4 of us, Alice had it best at 4th. I had it 10th. Andrew, you had it 7th, and Aaron, you had it at number 9. So nobody thought this was going top 3, let alone 1. Let alone 1 by a country mile. This thing smoked every other movie this summer.
Yeah,
just huge numbers. And the second,
clearly,
Andrew.
Yeah,
the second movie.
Sound of Freedom.
Yeah.
Sound of Freedom.
We didn't even have this on our radar. Not a single person on Stiff Pop predicted
what was this movie?
That is why I think that's the answer over Barbie. I really do.
Yes,
I think if you're
too.
saying what is the most overperforming movie of the summer, based on our expectations at least, it has to be Sound of Freedom.
Well,
not only did none of us put it on the list, not a single person who had entered the contest had this listed, even in their honorable mentions. Like, it's
I had Barbie making like 120 million, so it outperformed my projections by say 500, 600%. Sound of Freedom overperformed by an infinite percent because I had it at 0. I didn't know it existed. Not on the radar. It wasn't in the game.
You know how I know that this movie overperformed? It actually came to Australia. It wasn't going to come here at all. And then I was in the movie theater last week and we got trailers for it. And I was like, we're getting this movie? I didn't think I was ever going to see this in an official capacity. So, like, the fact that this was, the fact that we're literally getting trailers and it's now being advertised just tells you how it overperformed. That they came to have us watch it.
I love it. I love the fact that this movie is just going ham all over the world. It is
a very curious success story that I think a lot of independent studios, certainly faith-based studios, are going to try to crib some inspiration and marketing.
It's not even a faith-based film
strategy from. It isn't, but it was funded by one.
Jim Caviezel's in it.
Right. Well, but I think other like-minded studios are going to say, well, this worked for them on $10 million. Like, how do we kind of get to that same audience? And they found a path to success.
It operates very much like a faith-based film in that foundationally, I believe it comes from, I've done a little bit of research on this, but it comes from a Mormon group, I believe, who has been working on these kind of like big, showy ways to talk about this project. And this is their latest way to do that. It is... The box office is deceiving because nobody knows what percentage of it is for tickets that nobody sat in a chair for. Like that's a big part of it is
because of the whole marketing program.
People would buy out entire theaters and 10 people would show up, and so like it's one of those movies where it made 100 and whatever million, 180 something is where it ended up, I think.
180.
It doesn't matter though if nobody went to see it.
Well, that is the money it made, right? Like, so that's that's the interesting thing, is like it's one of those.
Also how people have been gaming the New York Times bestsellers list for decades. It's books purchased, not books read or books open. It's just
right. So I do wonder if there will be high passion projects that will employ this kind of marketing.
Yeah, I think it's going to serve as a roadmap for other smaller independent films, especially those from like faith-based studios, because they're going to be like, well, it worked for them. If we can just get our church group to go buy out an entire theater, we're all set. That'll get it on the top 10 that weekend. And then maybe I think a lot of it did so well those first 3 weeks that it became a sensation in and of itself. And that was sort of a self-fulfilling snowball that made it kind of keep gaining legs, even when that sort of initial hype and those initial buyouts from church groups or whatever had already kind of slowed down a bit. That's my take anyway.
So it's definitely an interesting one, and I have certain feelings about it. There's also an element of, and this is too extreme a way to look at it, but there's an element of laundering money, kind of when you kind of look back at it, because these aren't much of this isn't movie tickets purchase. Much of this is donation. These are donations. These are donations to this cause in the form of buying movie tickets, right? The person who puts down $10,000 to provide for X number of theaters, to show this movie. I'm just making these numbers up, by the way. I'm not talking about a specific instance. I'm saying as an example. Goes down as a commercial thing instead of as a donation. So it's a really interesting kind of one to look at overall. And I haven't studied it enough to have any really big opinions on it.
It is a very unique case study that I think will be studied for a long time.
Yeah, I'd like to dig a little deeper. I really would. But yeah,
I'm sure somebody's going to make a documentary on it or something. Like, it's too weird of an instance not to.
Yeah,
I think Sound of Freedom and Barbie are two of the most unique box office runs we've seen in a long time. And I do think we would be remiss if we did not discuss the honorable mention, which would be Oppenheimer, which I think exceeded everybody's best expectations by quite a margin. We all knew it would do well. We all predicted it would play somewhere, but it did so much better than I think, especially for an R-rated 3-hour drama. That's another movie that's like, wow, this is not what anyone expected. Yet sometimes good movies do well, even if they never make it to number one.
I think Barbie just had a genius marketing strategy, and then which got people in there for the first, few screenings, and then the word of mouth. Not just that, but I reckon I saw it 3 times in cinema because it's actually really great on a repeat viewing. And I can see people, for example, I took my mum to it, and then I had to take one of my best friends who hadn't seen it. And so it's like one of those films where people went and then brought their people to it so that they could see it. Oppenheimer, I do feel there was an element which rode the Barbie wave. I mean, Barbenheimer was such a point of conversation.
You mentioned the strong marketing for Barbie, and while I don't disagree with that, I feel like more credit should be given to just the organic virality of the actual movement. It was just passionate women throwing their weight and their enthusiasm behind this movie that spurred the Barbenheimer meme to begin with. And I think that was Warner Brothers' biggest marketing tool, was just passionate fans. They did barely any work. I feel like the actual success of the movie was driven from itself.
Barbie themed though for weeks. Like even my local cafes and stuff, there was monuments to Barbie. It was crazy.
I was going to say, don't say it too loud, but they also made a really good movie. Like that's the other thing that helps word of mouth is people would go to it.
That's what was great about that double feature. It wasn't just Barbie and Oppenheimer. What a funny pairing. What a contradiction. They were also very good.
Yeah. And I don't think we should undersell that, because that there are more examples of good movies finding this wave than quote unquote bad ones. Even Super Mario Brothers movie or whatever it was called, which isn't changing, isn't going to probably be nominated for a lot of Oscars.
My kids loved it.
Yeah, there's something about it that really hits well for families and kids, and it was word of mouth in that way. I don't think you get any better. I think memes and culture and the internet are fine for the 10% of the population who's scrolling on whatever Twitter is going to be called today.
But you do have to have a good movie to back it up.
But and if you don't get the same word
of
mouth.
Morbius. you get Morbius.
Correct.
Right? That had plenty of memes and plenty of conversations. So much conversations that
They
Sony
re-released it.
So they re-released it thinking, oh, the people love this. No, we don't.
No, we don't. But I think that's the thing. It's like, I think the marketing and the memes and all that got people in the initial viewings. And then because they were both so good, everyone was like, oh, well, I want to go see that again. Or, oh, my friend needs to see this. And then, like, you know, word of mouth. And then all of a sudden, biggest films of the summer, you know, 1 and 3. So, yeah.
All right, let's talk about some of your best and worst predictions before we get into the details. John, why don't you kick us off? What was your best prediction in your opinion?
Ooh, that is a good question. I had Guardians at 3. It ended up. I'm sorry, I had it at 2. It ended up at 3. I think that was one of my better picks.
Well, in the good prediction of that is that something would overtake it. You know, Guardian was kind of a clear front runner for a lot of people. So, yeah.
I think it is worth mentioning, and perhaps this is a small spoiler to the results, but none of us, any of us 4, correctly predicted a single movie in the right spot.
Andrew did.
Andrew did. Did I miss one?
ChatGPT did. ChatGPT did.
Oh, okay. All right. I see it here. Never mind. So we one person of the 4 of us, one pick in the right spot, which is surprising. That, like, even just by chance, I thought I would have got something in the correct spot.
I was close, but we'll talk about that in a bit. But
well,
yeah,
it was
I think
exactly
you're right.
by chance how Andrew did it. So
yeah. But yeah, I think that Guardians pick is a good one from you, Andrew. What do you think your best pick was?
Oh, also, I'll say Oppenheimer. I had that higher than the 3 of you, so I'll take credit for that.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, it's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I mean, I nailed it. Number 2.
Yep.
You guys laughed me out of the room.
I did not laugh at you for the Spider-Man pick. I had it at number 3, so like I was not laughing at you for that pick.
Oh, that's right. I was giving Alice a hard time because I had it at number 2 and you had it at number 3. And when it came to you, she's like, "That's a pretty good pick." And I was like, "I had it at 2."
You didn't say that when I said it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You threw me off with that.
It just takes a good movie, and like you said with Barbie, it just takes a good movie, and this is a good movie, man.
Yeah.
One of my favorites for sure.
I think for me, I'm just gonna say I didn't have a lot of great picks, but I was really happy with my top 3. I was happy that I had Little Mermaid, Spider-Man, and Guardians in my top 3, and they all did really, really well. I think I identified some of the big performers, not the biggest, not the big surprise performers, but just kind of eyeballing
3 of the top 5.
Yeah, eyeballing
Your
those.
top
I
3
think
were in the top 5. Yeah,
was a good choice. Alice, what about you?
Yeah, I'd say like Guardians, was my number 1. It came to number 3, and like I'm proud that I had Barbie as high as I did. If I had had I gone with my instincts, I probably would have put it higher. But I was like, no, there's all these
woulda,
other
coulda,
movies.
shoulda.
I know, and it's such a classic thing.
Take credit for the female intuition. You had it much higher than the rest of us, and I think you knew before we did that it was going to resonate.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I could sense that it was going to be something big, but I think there was a part of me,
that wasn't
culturally that had been like,
I
don't want to count chickens too much right now. So what if it ends up being terrible? I was like,
no, I remember you. Yeah. I remember you specifically saying, that this was going to tap into that sort of female experience, and that women were going to show up in droves, and you were totally right. So take credit for that.
So.
I don't think anyone could have. That being said, had you gone on the show in May when we did this and said, "Oh yeah, I think this will make 600 plus domestic," we would have laughed you out of the room.
You'd be a hero right now. We would be celebrating. You would be.
We would be eating
in the Internet Hall of Fame. Yeah.
So much.
I'll just go back in time and tell Alice to do that then.
Fair enough. That makes a fine transition into worst predictions. Barbie's my worst prediction, having it at number 9. I knew it was possible that this would take off as a phenom. It was already buzzing in May when we were talking about it. For a movie that comes out in July, was it July? When did Barbie come out?
July 16th.
Middle of July. Yeah. So a movie that comes out in the middle of July to
21st.
already to already have a buzz about it in May, I should have been paying more attention. But in my mind, I was thinking there's no way a movie based on a doll is going to make, $300 million, $200 million. It'll probably end up somewhere around that $120, $130 million that ends up there at the bottom of the list. And I have been wrong about many things in my life, but very few as wrong as I was about that. So
not to pile
my
on,
thinking was that Barbie wasn't going to make as much because it had to compete with Oppenheimer, and then they fed off of each other somehow instead. It's wild.
It has to be.
You know why?
It has to be the biggest pair of movies released on the same day, doesn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
That opening weekend, July 21st, made more money than anything but Endgame.
It did.
It was like the third best
Alice,
weekend in history.
Yeah.
No, but it's so interesting, especially when you think about like Dead Reckoning, right? Because Tom Cruise had a chip on his shoulder because of how Oppenheimer was taking his IMAX screens, and it didn't perform nearly as well because there was this like competitive element to it, and obviously yes, there was other elements. But then Barbie and Oppenheimer, like you could tell that the teams were like, we'll let this Barbenheimer thing happen, like feed off each other. And they just kind of, even the casts and the crews of each other would talk about the other movie before the promotion, before the strikes happened. And it was this really nice moment of like industry camaraderie. And then they work together as films because they're very similar in some ways, but then very different tonally. And so you can literally walk in and walk out of one and then right into the other and have, a very nice holistic experience. And either way, you're going to walk out crying, but whether it's catharsis or depression, that's really the two differences.
Absolutely. And not to pile on to Aaron, but I do want to point out, Aaron, you didn't even have Oppenheimer in your 10. You had it as
Sure. In again, the same kind of idea in that, I should have recognized that buzz of the, Barbenheimer thing. I correctly assumed that Barbie would perform better than Oppenheimer, but I just didn't think either one of them would make the impact that they did. I just it still blows my mind that a Christopher Nolan 3-hour dark biopic made this much
with Cillian
money.
Murphy. He's not like right. I mean, we know him, but he's not a household name.
Right. It's not like the cast of Inception or Interstellar or some of his other movies that have done well. I mean, it's wild. I just was not expecting. I mean, if it had done Tenet numbers, I would have been surprised. Like I just wasn't thinking, because it's just not. It just doesn't seem. Dunkirk to me probably should have been the big comp, right? It's kind of based in reality. There's not necessarily big stars centering it. It's more of a biopic. So yeah, and Dunkirk did fine if I remember, but I don't know that it made, $300 million in its first 6 weeks, which is what,
wow.
That's what it did. So.
Yeah, there was a moment where I was thinking, is Oppenheimer going to make Batman money?
And it did. Yeah. It's wild.
It did.
Yeah, there you go.
Who hasn't gone yet on this, for their worst pick? Go for it.
I mean, it's similar to everyone else. I'd say, similar to the underperformers with The Flash and Fast X not even showing up. That's a pretty bad pick either way. And I also...
You weren't unique there.
Yeah, and I also had Oppenheimer. I had it in my wild cards, but it wasn't on my list. But I'd say my worst one in a way, I had Elemental way higher than it should have been.
And to be fair,
I don't think that's a terrible pick, Alice. I don't.
I think it's doing the Titanic thing. I think let's check back, because I saw that it's literally still in theaters when it's about to be released on Disney Plus or something. So it's not
we already watched
terrible
it at home
pick.
Last week.
Well, I was going to talk about this later when we went over in my picks, but I'll go ahead and talk about it now. Yeah. It came within 3 weekends, maybe even 2, of landing exactly where I had it. It's going to pass. What is it that's right ahead of it? It's going to pass Transformers. It's going to pass Transformers in the next few weeks, because it's had these long legs. So yeah. Actually, just to be clear, Elemental wouldn't land where I had it, Transformers would have landed where I had Transformers if that had happened. So,
quick question. When looking back on the summer domestic totals, if there even is an official metric for that, is it based on movies up to September 4th, or is it, total grosses retroactively applied to those movies?
Movies released in the summer window, total gross, domestic gross by September 4th.
Okay, that's how it's always done. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
I thought so. I know those are the rules we apply to ourselves, but I wasn't sure if that's if there even is more official.
I don't know that there is an official kind of thing, but
I think that's how Box Office Mojo reports it as well. I think they cap the earnings on September 4th. It's Memorial Day through Labor Day. I think that's sort of how it's totaled.
Yeah.
Rather than like year of grosses, where we count, the majority of Avatar's money came this year, but we count it towards 2022's calendar. The summer box office, I don't think works that way.
I'm changing my mind. Oppenheimer's my biggest mistake. I just looked at Dunkirk's numbers. It was number 5 domestically that summer. It made 180, which again isn't 300, but it's that's a lot of money, and that puts it in that kind of 1 through 5. 1 through 7 slot. So I should have had it on the list. That was a big miss by me.
That's okay.
Thank you. I appreciate the grace. Anybody else? Who else needs to tell us their biggest failures?
I think everyone's. Oh yeah, Andrew?
Everybody knows me.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Listening to ChatGPT was my biggest mistake.
Yeah, but what was the worst prediction that you went with from ChatGPT?
Easily.
How much money is Equalizer 3 made?
Equalizer 3. Equalizer 3.
I think it's only made 70 mil total, right?
I can't tell you how close I came to starting the biggest personal campaign to champion Equalizer 3 in theaters.
Have you seen it yet?
I've never seen a single Equalizer.
So
you should. You would love the Equalizer movies. I can't believe you haven't seen the Equalizer movies.
I just love that the biggest campaign didn't even involve you seeing it. You couldn't even be bothered to buy a ticket.
No, I couldn't. I really couldn't. Because I thought, I should probably see the first 2, and then I thought, no. Aaron, you say they're good, so maybe I'll give them. Maybe if they're on
I think
TV
you might like the
I'll
Equalizer movies. None of them, in my opinion, none of them are terrible. I think the first one's, really interesting. The second one is not as good as the first one, but I don't think it's terrible. I haven't seen the third one yet, so I can't speak to the third one. But yeah,
you and everyone else are.
It was number 1. It was number 1 for Labor Day weekend, and that is a bad.
That's not nothing. That's not nothing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so John, did you say your biggest mistake?
I think I did, or maybe I didn't. I don't know. I'm really happy with how I didn't get anything in the correct order. My 2 big misses, The Flash and Fast X, was shared with all of you, and I think everybody kind of whiffed on those 2. I had Transformers in my honorable mentions. It's going to end up probably, like you said, 10th
number 10
right now.
Yeah.
So I don't feel too bad about that. I think my biggest miss, if you can say that, is The Sound of Freedom. I didn't even know it existed. It's not like I didn't count it out. I hadn't even heard of it. So that's on me. I didn't. The fact that I had, and I researched. I went in and I was looking at comps. I was looking at past examples. I was researching the entire calendar, and that just did not even cross my mind that this might be a movie worth thinking about. It wasn't like oh, I don't think it'll do too well. It was when it came out and I saw that it was number 3. I was like, what is this and where did it come from? So I think my biggest miss is just being blindsided by a movie that made almost $200 million, and I had never heard of it. And when was the last time that happened? My Big Fat Greek Wedding, maybe? I'm trying to think of another movie that just blew up before anyone had even heard of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that happens every couple years. A movie from nowhere will go somewhere, and we'll all be like, wow, cool. Have you heard about this? I've never, I haven't, but it's making money.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get into the results, shall we? First, we'll count down the top 10 movies of the summer. So just for officialness, here they are from number 10 to number 1. Elemental did stay in the top 10 after a fairly calm opening. at 153 million.
It really slugged it out to get to number 10.
Yeah.
It did not look good a month ago.
No.
But it hung
had
around
legs.
and it really did.
It Titanic'd its way.
It like to put it in perspective, Elemental opened half of the Flashes. They opened on the same day, and it's going to finish with $70 million more, or maybe $60 million.
It's amazing.
It opened at $25 million lower on opening weekend, but it's going to leg out nearly twice as much.
Well, the simplest way to say that, I guess, then at least closely, is it made half as much money opening weekend, but ended up making twice as much money overall.
Yeah, which is such a wild. That doesn't happen anymore. That used to happen when theaters would let E.T. run for 12 months or whatever. But in 2023, that is not a scenario you see often. Theaters don't give the grace, as you called it, Aaron, to movies underperforming. They don't let it hang around. They're like, that's fine. Put it on Disney Plus. Get it out of here. It's not making
money. Number 9, Transformers: Rise of the Beasts at 157. I will say also, for every movie to be over 150 million isn't bad. To have number 10 be over 150 million is not necessarily something that happens every year. So that's cool. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning at 170. Beat out barely by Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny at 174. Sound of Freedom at 181,
crazy,
passing all of them.
Indiana Jones and Mission Impossible.
And this is where the dividing line is between the first 5 and the second 5. There's a very clear and distinct dividing line at number 5 between the movies that are in the 300 millions and the movies in the 100 millions. Little Mermaid ended up with 298. Let's call it 300. And there would literally be no movies this summer that made in the 200 millions. Like that's just a really interesting gap there.
Such a huge 100 million plus gap between 5 and 6.
Yeah. So Little Mermaid made 298. Oppenheimer just passed Little Mermaid at 310 and has its sights on Guardians. Can it get to 358 domestically? I don't think so, but who knows?
I think it's starting to run out of gas. It would need to do really well. But September's usually kind of slow, so it could.
Yeah.
It's still making 3 to 4 million a weekend.
Guardians at number 3 at 358, Spider-Man at 381, and then the other big dividing line between everything else and Barbie, $612 million domestically. That is just mind-blowing. It's just almost incomprehensible. So, wow. Well done.
To put that another way, if you added up the total grosses of Indiana Jones, Mission Impossible, Transformers, and Elemental, representatives of some of the biggest, longest-running franchises, Barbie had just about the same amount.
Yeah.
It's all 4 of those put together. We're talking about 650 versus 612.
And Mattel, please listen. If you're listening to this, this is not because it was a movie about a toy.
No.
I need you to understand. This has nothing to do with it being a movie about a toy. I mean, yes, that had brand name, but the money it made was not toy related. It was because the movie was well made and it spoke to people that never have movies made catered to them, and also was made by a brilliant writer-director who is going to do the next Narnia movies, and I'm very, 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 very excited for it. But don't just start making what other Hot Wheels movies and stuff.
Yeah. Well, Alice, I know you're smart enough to recognize that despite your passionate plea here, Warner Brothers is not going to take the best. They're not going to take the right lesson for this. They are going to learn the wrong lessons and do exactly what you just said. They're going to make some dumb Hot Wheels movie with Timothée Chalamet or Tom Holland. And they're like, look, cars. And it's like, no, kids.
Is it Mattel? Is Barbie Mattel?
Yeah.
Hasbro.
Yeah.
Oh,
no, it's Mattel. Mattel's a character in the movie.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Mattel and then the movie owned by Warner Brothers.
Okay,
wow. So I'll be looking forward to the next MCU, the Mattel Cinematic Universe. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. All right, so that is the countdown. Let's take a look at our individual responses. John created a nice little sheet for us here. I'll pull up for those who are watching that we can kind of reference and look over. So we're going to go from last place to winner from the 4 of us. So, Andrew, we're going to start with you.
What you mean?
What you talking about there?
Andrew, half of your picks aren't in the top 10. Half.
Here are Andrew's picks. Number 1, Andrew had Fast X at number 1. It did not make the top 10. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse at number 2. Ding, 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 ding. 10 points for Andrew, the only 10-pointer on the board. Somehow still comes in last place with the only 10-pointer on the board. Predicts correctly.
Not overall, just between us.
Thank you for the reminder. Yes, just between the 4 of us. Had Transformers at number 3. That ended up at number 9. Had The Flash at number 4. He had 2 movies in the top 4 that did not make the list at all. And normally, Fast X, The Flash, we all thought it was going to do fine.
Yeah.
None of the rest of us had either of those in the top 4. So there is that.
I felt lied to. Not by ChatGPT, but all the people saying The Flash was going to be a hit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny at number 5. Not bad. That came in at number 7. That'll get you a couple points. Mission Impossible at number 6. That came in number 8. That's a couple points. You had Barbie at number 7, which is more points than I got for Barbie, more points than John got for Barbie. So congratulations on that. And then at number 8, Meg to the Trench was your number 8 pick. Andrew, I don't know if
did it make the top 10?
That did not make the top 10. So yes, that is not on there. Had Oppenheimer at number 9, which ended up at number 4. That's fine. That'll be a couple points. And then the aforementioned Equalizer 3 coming in at number 10.
We're still waiting on those numbers, right?
No, we are not. 40% of your top 10 didn't even make the top 10, Andrew, and that is not a recipe for success. You did, however, have Guardians of the Galaxy, the number 3 movie of the summer, and The Little Mermaid, the number 5 movie of the summer, in your wild cards. So you do get a point for each of those. And then you also had the Mutant Mayhem, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie in your wild card as well. That did not make the top 10. Thoughts, Andrew, as you look over this glorious list? What are some of your thoughts?
Better than it had any right to be.
I was surprised you only missed 3 or 4.
Andrew, I thought you were going to read out a concession speech written by ChatGPT.
Oh, why would I do that? Because it's exactly what I'm going to do next year, too. I'm using ChatGPT again. Because by that time, they'll have worked out all the kinks. And,
you think so?
You guys, yeah.
Do you think it will? Do you think we'll actually get to a spot where it is good and better at this than we are? I would love to see that. I think that would be
eventually,
incredible. Yeah, that would be incredible.
I don't think, at least for like 10, 15 years.
Well, I think that lands you at 31 points, Andrew, and you can thank your lucky spiders that you got that one right on, because those 3 extra points from 7 to 10 kept you from being in very last place. So 28 was the lowest on the entire contest. So 31 points for Mr. Ormsby. John, Alice, you have any thoughts on Andrew's picks?
I am very surprised that he did as well as he did. When we were all laughing at you at your picks 4 months ago, I thought there's no way you even come close to this. I mean, the Equalizer pick was a joke, but I'm surprised that some of these were not too far off from where they ended up. Right, Indiana Jones was only 2 picks off. Mission Impossible was 2 picks off. You had Barbie, I think, higher than I did. I'm impressed.
I got Spider-Man dead on.
Right, this is better than I thought, and
thank your Spidey stars, because
with better
we would continue to laugh.
I think with some more specific prompts and maybe specifying domestic, you might do much better next year. Because I'm guessing that Fast X pick was ChatGPT just thinking, this movie does well. No, not stateside.
Yeah, but domestic doesn't explain Equalizer 3 and Meg 2 the Trench. So
very good point.
Exactly.
It's a complicated algorithm. I don't have time to explain it to you guys.
Sure. Right. No, totally understand.
It's a complicated algorithm that got it wrong. It's fine.
Very complicated. It's playing the long game, I guess.
All right. In third amongst the 4th of us, John Paula coming in third. Let's take a look at your picks, John. You had The Little Mermaid at number 1, not a bad pick. That came in at number 5 and really performed well. Guardians at number 2. That came in at number 3. That's a great pick. You had Indiana Jones all the way up at number 3. That came in at number 7. I was quite excited.
I think this might let my own personal biases cloud my box office judgment here. And I'm like, yeah, this is going to make a lot of money. It's even Crystal Skull did huge numbers. And I was thinking incorrectly that we hadn't lost interest yet. But I think this movie only made the money it did because of people over like 40 years old. I don't know that this did not hit the youth market.
So that was at number 3 for you. You had Mission Impossible at number 4. That landed at number 8.
That was a big surprise. I really thought I would do better.
You had The Flash at number 5, and that was that was a problem. That didn't come in at on the list at all. So yeah. You had Spider-Man at number 6. That came in number 2. So that's not terrible. Great Oppenheimer pick at number 7. That came in at number 4. So
looking back, I think I mentioned this earlier. I was surprised that you all had it lower than me because I remember us all kind of thinking, Oppenheimer will do well, and even at 7, I wasn't optimistic enough.
Yeah. Let's see. Fast X at number 8, which didn't make the list. Elemental at number 9. Great pick. It ended up number 10. If it had passed Transformers, you would have gotten the Elemental pick completely right. So that would have been another 3 points for you. And Barbie at number 10, of course, that came in at number 1, so that's just a single point. And then your wild cards, you did have Transformers in there, so that got you a point. You also had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which didn't make it, and Joyride, which
that movie ended up not making like any money. I think No Hard Feelings was the R-rated comedy that did the numbers I was thinking this would. It was sort of a coin flip. I'm like, one of these will probably do pretty good numbers, but it wasn't Joyride. That one kind of just went straight to streaming and nobody cared about
it. So you ended up in a tie for 40th place at 37 points.
Take it.
So 37 points for John. You beat ChatGPT by 6 points. Congratulations. That's not nothing. So.
Looking back, I was maybe overly confident, or maybe not overly, but I was so satisfied with my picks in May. I was like, this is a good list. I like this. These movies seem very reasonable, and I still think they were reasonable. The Flash and Fast X, I don't know that we could have predicted they'd do so badly, or that Oppenheimer and Barbie would do so well. So I still, knowing what I knew then, I liked what I picked out, and knowing what I know now, I'm still surprised by it.
There you go. And coming in number 2 of the 4 of us, Alice comes in at number 2.
That's what happened. Overall, everything's fine. Yay!
Alice, let's take a look at your individual picks. Number 1, you had Guardians. That came in at number 3. That's a solid choice. Little Mermaid at number 2, another solid choice. That performed very well. That came in at number 5. Elemental all the way up at number 3 was a little bit optimistic.
I thought Inside Out would happen again, but I got confused with the pretty colors.
There's a different world again where, based on the opening, Elemental isn't even in the top 10. It really kind of clung on for dear life to even make the top 10. So,
and it only got there in the last week or two, I think. I think Labor Day weekend.
No, it's been in there for about a month. But it was chasing Transformers since then. It passed whatever came in number 11 about 3 weeks ago or a month ago. Something like that. I thought
it was more recently than that. Well, still, it took it a while. It came out back in June. So.
Yep. Let's see. Barbie at number 4. Congratulations. You had it the highest of any of us. And coulda, shoulda, woulda world. You may have even had it higher. But you don't get those points for the coulda, shoulda, woulda. You get the points for number 4, which is not bad.
Yeah, fair.
So that's good. Mission Impossible at number 5. That came in at number 8. It's pretty good. Indiana Jones, really close. Had it at number 6, and it came in number 7. That would have been a nice bump to snag that, right? I mean, if it weren't for Sound of Freedom, you know what I mean?
I know.
And that happened in the last couple weeks.
How many points do you get for being one off versus spot on?
You get 7 for one off, 10 for spot on. It's a nice big three-point bonus. So
that's what it was. Okay.
Yep. Then you had the Flash at 7 and Fast X at 8. Neither of those made the top 10.
At least they were next to each other.
Yeah, a reasonable place to put them. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse at number 9. If you had just flipped Spider-Man and Elemental,
I know.
What a list. Yeah. So, that's a really low pick for Spider-Man.
I just relied on this into numbers way too much. I didn't think about the fact that people have been watching the first one on Disney Plus for
it did
years.
So much better than the original. I think the original Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse made like 180. So across
it made
more than doubled its predecessor, and that is rare.
No, it's not. I'm almost sure that I made this point on the show in May that for animated sequels, the second one is the big hitter. Shrek 2 blew Shrek out of the water. Like it's crazy.
I will concede that point.
Well, we'll listen to you next time, Aaron. Okay.
All right, so Spider-Man came in. No, I'm glad you didn't listen to me. Spider-Man came in at number 9 for you, and then Transformers at number 10. Which again, if Elemental passes it up, you get that one right on the nose as well. So that's a great pick. Came in at number 9. You had Oppenheimer in your wild card, so you get a point for that. You had the Haunted Mansion and the Blackening for your other 2 wild cards.
Look, they were wild, like capital WILD wild cards. Okay.
Did you see those movies?
No, I think they were only here for like a few weeks. Like I don't even think it was they were in theaters that long. So
they're both pretty good. They're both worth.
I do
watch,
want to see them. I do want to see them, but they
especially the Blackening. The Blackening's really funny.
It's going to be Halloween season.
Good.
Just a couple of weeks, so fire those
up.
I'll
watch it for that. There you go. Yeah. I'll watch it for that.
Alice, your total points added up to 38, just crushing John by that single point, 38 to 37. That puts you in a tie for 36th place in the overall.
I'll take it. It's my first time, and I was working off an Australian mindset, so I count it as a win.
Just think dumber and slower, and you'll be right on the money.
Yeah, yes. That's all you got to do. On to my list. I did win amongst the 4 of us. I had Guardians at number 1. It came in at number 3. Little Mermaid at number 2. That came in number 5. Spider-Man at number 3. That came in number 2. Again, I think that's really where I made my money.
Was your best. That was probably your best pick, and I think we did talk about that earlier.
Yeah,
having Spider-Man as high as that.
Mission Impossible I had too high at number 4. That ended up at number 8. Indiana Jones I had at number 5. That came in number 7. That's not too bad. Elemental at number 6. That came in at number 10. And that's probably a little Pixar optimism on my part. But yeah, like Alice, I had the Flash and Fast X at 7 and 8. In fact, Alice and I had several spots the same. And missed out on those.
We all had three humans had Fast X all at 8. And we were all badly wrong.
Well, and Andrew had the Meg too, so none of us had something in the top 10 at our number 8. So
that's interesting. There's that gray block across the middle of our screen here.
Didn't believe the Barbie hype enough. Had it at number 9. Still managed to grab a point for it. And then Transformers at number 10. It came in at number 9, so I got those 7 points. And again, Elemental passing Transformers would have been great for 3 of us. All 3 of us would have celebrated that move because it would have helped us out.
Yeah, and I'm realizing now if I had Transformers in my top 10 versus honorable mentions, just at 10th place, that would have got me 6 more points.
7 actually, or no 6 because you'd have lost the whatever point in the number 12. Yeah.
Aaron, how quickly would it take you to add one more row to that?
For what?
One more extra player. Because you said at the end of last podcast that we did this, that you were going to switch my wild cards from my top 2 picks and move everything else down.
Interesting. So I was going to make your wild cards your top 3 and shift everything else down?
Yeah.
And that would be an interesting thing to do. I'll see if John wants to work on that, and we can.
I'll do it over your time while we're working on everything else here. Why not?
So anyways,
we were saying that John and I were talking about how we think the algorithm. This is where I messed up. This is obviously where I messed up.
Clearly.
No, but we were saying that we think the algorithm may have overevaluated wild cards, and that they were actually the correct top 3 picks.
Let's reset the color here. Let's see. You got that Guardians was wrong. The wrong spot. Wrong. So none of them were in the right spot. But
which none of us had any in the right spot either. So other than Andrews, so yeah.
So these are all yellow, right? And then these 2 you missed, Fast and Flash, same as everybody else.
Well, while you're working on that, let me finish up with mine. I ended up at 41 points.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I ended up at 41. Of course, I ended up at 41 because it's 41.
It's gotta be.
Ended up in a tie for 21st place at 41 points. Just three more than Alice. That's all it took to get up to that 41.
So what you're saying is none of us made it into the top 10 either.
Correct. That is correct.
It's actually surprising how like close the 4 of us did. I mean, we were only separated in total 10 points. One correct guess was all that separated everybody.
Yeah.
Do I have this right? Someone recheck my work. I have.
Yeah.
And when we adjusted Andrew's list to put his honorable mentions at the top,
that's right.
shifting everything down, I have him missing all spots exactly and 3 spots: Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Fast and Flash, completely. So we got 7 out of 10, which is 1 better than he had before.
And I can do the points for you. If you want to add them up, he'll get 6 points for that Guardians of the Galaxy pick. He'll get 5 points for that Little Mermaid pick.
Yeah.
What is that? Spider-Man at number what? I can't see the numbers now.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Is that 5?
No, not 7. Not 7. 5. Yeah.
5. All right. He's got Spider-Man at number 5. That's another 5 points. He's got Transformers at number 6. That is another 5 points. He has Indiana Jones at number 8. Is that right?
That's 7. Yep.
That's 7 points. He has Mission Impossible at number 9.
9.
That's another 7.
That's 7 points. And he has Barbie at 10. That's 1 point. And he has Oppenheimer and Wildcard, which is 1 point. So there you go. There's the math.
37. He would have tied me.
John at 37 if we just
still
shift.
would have come last.
You guys are no smarter than a robot.
Hey, me and Aaron are
That's right. We're smarter than a robot. What are you talking about?
Well, now I know next year to just flip the wild cards and make them my top 3.
Or you just say top 13. I think that's the better way to form it to ChatGPT is, what are the top 13 money making?
That's how I looked at it when I was building mine. I just here are the ones that the also rans, right?
Yeah.
The ones that didn't quite make it.
Well, there you go. There's our little competition. Let's go to the overall winners, shall we? We're going to take a look at who did the best. I will tell you the best score was 58 points. 58.
Wow.
That is a great score. Both of the 58s, I believe, had 4 exact correct answers.
Wow.
So
but
4
none of them had Sound of Freedom. Just want to remind everybody, nobody picked Sound of Freedom.
Correct.
Can I say one other thing about our top 2 picks? Both of their number 1 picks weren't even in the top 10.
Correct. One of them had the Flash at number 1, and one of them had Fast X at number 1.
That's incredible.
So
you can be that bad and still that correct.
But it makes sense, though, on some level, John. It makes sense because nobody got number 1 right. Our number 1 was a wash for all of us. So if you put something in there that didn't make the top 10, you're kind of shifting everything else down like Barbie did. Barbie shifted everything else down. And so you've kind of got a little more possibility to get the others right. So the winners are Jeff and Jack, Jeff Widman and Jack Grimm. So thank you guys for playing. Both of you, I don't remember if we talked about a tiebreaker. I know we have had a tiebreaker in the past, but I don't remember if we made it part of the game this time. So both of you can have something said on the podcast. Just get in touch with me, and we will read whatever I will say, whatever you want me to say within reason.
You said the tiebreaker would be whoever had the most correct wins.
That's what it's been in the past. Did I say that this time as well?
You did say that.
Okay, well they tied on that too. So
I know. So that was the tiebreaker.
So yeah. So then either way, it can happen that way. So
congratulations. You know what would be a fun tiebreaker for maybe next year is correctly guess the total cum of the top 10, right? How because right now the total for this summer, if I'm reading this math right, is $2.8 billion amongst the top 10, which is I think better than a lot of us expected.
Yeah.
If we look at my original predictions, I think I was only thinking that it would do 2.5. So it maybe I guess close, but yeah, we had a very good summer. We ate, as the kids say.
John, what was the closest number that you guessed to the final? Because that could be different than the placements. I'm just curious.
I don't have that next to each other. We can tab back and forth. I had Elemental at 145. It's going to be 153. That's pretty close. That's pretty close. I had Transformers at 115. I was way off there. Mission Impossible, I had that at 300. Indiana Jones, it went to 174. I thought it would do 300. I was woo. Let's see, Sound of Freedom wasn't on my list. I had Little Mermaid made about 300. I thought it would make 420. Oppenheimer made 310. I had that making only 180. Guardians 358. I thought it would make 340. That's really close. Spider-Man made 381. I had that only making 235. And then Barbie with 612, and I thought it would maybe.
So Elemental, you almost nailed the actual number.
I was really close on it. It took it a while, but yeah, that was the closest I got in terms of box office actual financial estimates.
So with Elemental, was it just the fact there were no other family movies in theaters at that time that had just stayed in for so long?
It's also a really good movie. It's also
I think it's good for like a rewatch as well. Like especially. Like it's a good rewatch where the parents aren't hating that they have to take their kids back, or maybe they're going back on their own, or and I think it appeals to lots of different ages. You know what it is? I reckon it's also one of those movies where, because it might have come, I don't know, like there was a lot out at that time, and maybe it was just like, oh, I'm not going to see that now, I'll go see that in a couple of weeks. And then it was still out, and so they were like, oh yeah, I'll go see that. And then maybe that's what happened.
I think the theater owners were patient with it. They left it in theaters when I feel like most other movies, most other demographics would have been like, yeah, this isn't going to play. It happened to Mission Impossible, which bled theaters and lost all the premium large formats as soon as week 2 rolled around. Whereas Elemental, I think, had more opportunity to stick around and to find its audience, which for parents with kids like myself, we don't have the opportunity to rush out and see things on opening day. We usually wait a few weeks, and I think a lot of other people did the same.
Yep. Well, there you go. There are the results of the Summer Sum Game 2023. It's back finally. The pandemic could only keep it down so long, and we look forward to continuing
back with a vengeance.
Yes.
Well, looking at for our video listeners, looking at this color-coded graph when we're all said and done, it is astonishing to me that the only person of the 4 of us who correctly guessed one movie in the right spot.
You don't need to keep punching me. You won the fight.
No.
You don't need to keep punching me, Drago.
No. You and I tied, but I think it's so fascinating that the original unadjusted ChatGPT was the only one that got it one guess in the right spot. That's it, just one. Yeah. Everyone just whiffed on those green boxes, I guess.
Can we just chalk it up to it was just a funky summer?
It was.
Yeah,
there was a lot of very unique What a very
I don't
unique
think you would have
things
won
happening.
either way, Andrew, but yeah, it was a funky summer.
I'm not saying I would have won either way. I'm just saying, irregardless, it was a funky summer.
Well, I think I have the most to answer for because I was very confident. And when we adjust your picks for what we believe ChatGPT meant, I tied with a computer. I should be better.
I don't know that that's what ChatGPT meant. It was my only way to make sense of the world. I just couldn't understand how it wouldn't have Guardians somewhere in there in the top. That didn't make any sense to me.
And the fact that it resulted in a 6-point bump, I think sort of lends credence to that theory that, it probably misunderstood the assignment a little bit.
Yeah, possibly.
And the fact it was me talking to the computer, there's a human element here that definitely gets
files
a lot
are
of blame.
inside the computer?
In the computer. It's so simple.
All right. I think we're gonna end it there. I think we'll just call this a close for the episode. We've had a good time talking about the Summer Sum game. Thank you guys so much for your support of this fun, and thank you to all of those who joined. For our first time back, I was really pleased with the over 60 people who played along with us. So thank you for that. I think somebody keeps records of this stuff. We should look back and see the other Summer Sum games and how those went. But thank you for doing that, and we look forward to doing it again next year. Thank you so much for joining us today for Sif Pop. It is part of the Studio DNA podcast network. You can find out more about other shows on the network at studiodna.media or by searching Studio DNA in your podcast player. Huge thanks to Andrew for hanging out again today.
Thank you, buddy.
Big thanks to John Paula for hanging out with us today. John, where do you want to send people?
Letterboxd, I suppose, although I haven't updated it in a minute. That's where I write reviews. I log everything there. It's kind of the best place to keep up with me, and it's the only social media platform that's not totally toxic anymore.
You need to check into Be Real a little bit more.
I'm on Be Real. I see you posted on there. But the only time Be Real asks for a photograph is when I'm like on the toilet or at my desk. Like, ask me when I'm out in Germany, when I'm on the top of a mountain looking at a castle, not when I'm back in the hotel room.
It never does it while you're out.
The timing is terrible.
Or the timing is exactly what it intends to be, and we just want a real look into your life. That's the thing. I do love what this is going to be a Be Real ad for a second here. I do love the thing they've done with if you do your Be Real within a minute of posting, that you have a couple more you can throw in there. I think that's kind of a nice.
I always forget to use my bonus ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I got it correctly when I'm at my desk. Now I can do it when I'm out where interesting. I always forget to do that.
Yeah.
Aaron, before we continue, are we not doing buried treasure?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just making sure. Right. And thank you to Alice for hanging out. Alice, where do you want people to find you?
Yeah, well, as always, you can find me as a writer on sifpop.com. My next article will be a review of my Big Fat Greek Wedding 3. So I'm seeing that literally later today. So we will see how that goes. Otherwise, you can find me at Ali G Mick, ALIGMICH on Letterboxd and Instagram as well.
Very, very nice. And thanks to producer Phil for producing the audio and video show.
Thanks, Phil.
And thank you to our Sif Pop members for making the show possible. We had a really fun Sif Pop pre-show today, talking about a lot of streaming stuff, and that goes out to our Sif Pop members. So thank you for being part of that, and hope you get to check that out. If you want to find out more about it, it is at Patreon, patreon.com/SifPop. Support starts at $3 a month, and you can check out the different perks there. Let's see. Lots of ways to connect with us. Feel free to leave a comment, a rating, or a review at Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen. You can email us, feedback@sifpop.com. And finally, if you're having a good time, your movie-loving friends will probably like the show too, so make sure you let them know about it, and that listening is much easier than figuring out how to ask ChatGPT what movies are going to make money.
I'm down already. I'm down.
One final jab.
That was an encouragement. I'm saying it's difficult to do. Like, you were in a losing situation. Like, it wasn't your fault. Mostly. So we will be back next week. I'm not sure what we'll be reviewing yet, but we will be back next week to look at a couple movies, and we will see you then. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hop in live chat. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. I know a lot of you were interested in where you placed. Jeff Widman hanging out with us. Yeah, both the winners actually hanging out with us. Slab in there, Robert, Jay Bourgeois. Lots of people having good conversations. So Scott in there as well. So thanks for hanging out with us, guys. We will try to be live as much as we can and do podcasts as much as we can as we kind of enter this season of not having to do one every week. We still will try to do them when we're around. So I want to make sure you guys know that since it's been a few weeks off. But thanks for letting me go to Alaska. Appreciate that. All right, we'll catch you guys on the next one.
For that.
Thank you, John. Thank you for letting me go to Alaska.
Good night.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.